All right, it is noon, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to Remote Learning Week. This is our fourth breakout session of the week, and we've had a really good week of conversation so far. So I'm excited for this last conversation with Melanie LeJeune today about technology tools for remote learning. I think it's going to be a great conversation and a great way to give you some tools and more tactical information to kind of gather all those coaching tactics, student assessment tactics, and everything that we've talked about this week, and kind of get the tools that you need or realize what tools you already have to kind of get those initiatives across the line for your remote learning initiative. So a few things that I wanted to plug for all of you before we get started. I just want to give a quick overview for all the sessions that we've had this week, where you can access them if you weren't able to view them live. So Monday, we had a great conversation with Eric Geis on digital equity and student engagement. Tuesday, we had a really good conversation with Sean Coffrin on communication, collaboration, and coaching tactics. Yesterday, we had a great conversation with Sarah Margison about teaching tactics for remote learning. We got some really good suggestions out of that session. And today we're going to be talking with Melanie LeJeune about technology tools for remote learning. These sessions can all be accessed on our YouTube channel. We have a playlist called 2020 Remote Learning Week, and all of these breakout sessions, along with our original Remote Learning Summit that aired last Friday, are all available there for you to watch again. If you watch these sessions and would like to receive PD credit for it, we'd be happy to provide you with a certificate, and you can fill out which sessions you attended and submit that to your school or district to receive credit for the corresponding hours that you spent with us this week for remote learning. Tomorrow, we are really excited. We have a Dino office hours event. So this is going to be a webinar style kind of conversation between myself, Casey Higgs, who is a Dino School Success Manager, and Devin Arms, who is the Director of Technology at Tippecanoe School Corporation in Indiana. He's a Dino customer, and we're going to be talking with them about how to use Dino for remote learning, what Dino does, how our product facilitates remote learning, and any questions that you have. We received a ton of questions about Dino as we've been hosting the Technology Coaching Conference, the Remote Learning Summit, and throughout this Remote Learning Week. So we wanted to make sure that we provide a place for all of you to get those questions answered. Whether you're a Dino customer or not, it's a great opportunity for current customers to learn how you can use Dino in a remote learning setting, maybe how other customers are doing the same to help their remote learning initiative. And for non-customers, if you're not familiar with Dino, or if you are and would just like to have a little more information on the tool and how to use it in your remote learning setting, this is a great opportunity to learn more because we don't typically host product-specific webinars, but we thought that this would be a really good time to do so, since we've been getting a lot of questions from you all about Dino. A few more plugs before we get started. I promise it'll be short. If you're watching this right now, you're probably already part of the Tech Coach Con Facebook group. This is a professional learning network, PLN, PLC, that you can join to continue the remote learning conversation with your peers. So if you're not a part of the group and you're watching this maybe on YouTube or from social media, go ahead and join that group. We're really hoping to have all of our members continue the conversation as this remote learning period continues, and next year when maybe we're back in the normal setting, or whatever the new normal setting may be. Additionally, we are going to be having a event about professional development coming out in May. So keep an eye out for that. We'll have more information on that coming soon. This is a little sneak peek because we're going to be officially announcing that tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. We're really excited for that event. And I think that's all that I have. So without further ado, Melanie, today we are joined by Melanie LeJeune from St. Louis Catholic High School. She is a current Dino customer. We've worked a lot with her in the past. She has some really great insights into tech coaching, technology integration, technology tools. And today we're going to be talking about technology tools for remote learning. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen so that you can see us all. Hopefully everyone can see us okay. Melanie, hi, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited for this conversation. Do you want to give everyone a quick introduction to yourself, a little bit of an overview into maybe your remote learning environment and your role in that?
Sure. So I am the librarian and the tech coach at a high school in Louisiana. We have about 600, we're a small Catholic high school. We have about 600 students. And our remote learning experience was on a Friday, we found out our school was closing. Luckily, we had an in-service already scheduled for the following Monday. So we scrapped everything. We had meetings over the weekend, the academic team did, to figure out exactly what we were going to present to our teachers on that Monday. And so we had a really great sessions. We decided that we were going to use the tools we already knew. And start from there. And we use, it's asynchronous, so students are working at their own pace. We send out lessons at the beginning of the week through email. They're due at the end of the week. And we knew that we would have, students who were struggling. So our counseling department, our academic team, they kind of split the list and call those to have check-ins with them to see, what's going on. We also have remote tech help, and our system there has been really good. We're a one-to-one school, so our students we're so blessed that our students already had computers to be able to continue the work. And so we did keep our spring break, which was last week. We had 3 weeks of remote learning, spring break, and now we're in week 4. And this is our seniors last week, which is bittersweet. And they'll have some time to do some makeup work next week. And then we all finish May 15th.
Thank you for that background. That's really helpful. It's interesting to me because so in our conversation yesterday with Sarah, we talked a little bit more about the lower grades. Could you give a little more maybe insight to how remote learning for the high school levels might be different than lower grades?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think, you want to continue the real world application. You want to have some fun in there as well for the high school students. But I know we had teachers who were really concerned about, they couldn't just do review. They had to continue with instruction for new content, especially our AP teachers. And we have some dual enrollment classes with colleges, that they have to keep going. So that was probably the biggest concern, was how to make sure we deliver that content that the students are understanding. And we have some great tools that help us do that. One of them is OneNote. 100% of our students use OneNote. 75% of our teachers use what's called Class Notebook, and it allows them to see student work in real time. So they can always go and make notes in the notebook for the student. The student can do the same. Our teachers also have virtual office hours through Google Meet. We are, it's really great. We are a Google school and a Microsoft school. Sometimes it can be overwhelming because there's so much we have in trying to streamline that. But so anyway, those two things, OneNote's Microsoft and Google Meet is Google. So they've both helped us out with remote learning.
That's a good segue into our first question, which is very applicable to you because this was from someone from a standalone Catholic school, not a district, and they were asking about a Microsoft Teams expert or any insight you have into, using Microsoft Teams, Microsoft tools. I know that you are a part of the MIE expert program. So if you want to touch on that too, that would be great.
Sure. So with Teams, we use it internally. So we're using Teams right now for faculty meetings, department meetings. We have weekly faculty meetings through Teams and weekly department chair meetings through Teams. And then our departments actually meet. So we have 3 meetings a week, which is great because you need to keep that communication going. We decided not to roll out Teams for remote learning because we really wanted to focus on the lessons and instruction, and we didn't want to take that time to teach everyone how to use it in a classroom setting. But we did have a teacher pilot teams this year with a class, and we plan on moving toward teams in the future, but we just felt like it wasn't smart of us to, you know, overwhelm people basically. I do have, there's a link that I have, and I'll share it in the chat. And it's actually a really great place if you want to go learn all there is to know about teams. Alice Keeler has a playlist, a YouTube playlist, and that's what I'll share in YouTube. There's also Mike Tholfsen. He is the product manager for the Microsoft EDU. He's great to follow on Twitter, and he is always posting you know, sessions that they're having about teams. So let me get Alice Keeler's YouTube playlist in the link for you, and hopefully that'll help.
Yeah, that would be awesome. So
Because they're,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but they're like really short, you know, like no more than 90 seconds. So I like those small chunks.
They're easier to digest, definitely. She's
Yes.
a great resource for so many different things. So kind of using Microsoft Teams more for faculty and staff collaboration and not necessarily for classrooms.
Right. At this point, yeah, that's what we decided to do. Although I have been reading a lot about schools who just rolled it out and have had great success. So I think you have to find what's the right fit for your school and faculty. And, you know, we just, like I said, we had some teachers who were really concerned about delivering their content. And so we wanted to make sure that they were comfortable with that and not having to learn something new at the same time.
Yeah, I think that is definitely a resounding sentiment as we have these conversations, is not overwhelming teachers, not introducing a ton of new technology that they need to learn, but making sure they have what they need to be effective and enhance their lessons and not overwhelm them. So did you say that you're using Google Meet mostly for video instruction?
Yeah, well, right, for our virtual office hours with the students, yes.
Can you talk? Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was just going to say, because we're our student emails are through Gmail, and so that again just made sense to go that route.
Yeah, could you talk a bit about maybe the most effective ways you've found to use video instruction with your teachers and how that is working or not working and facilitating office hours through that versus a formal class?
Yeah, well, basically what we did, because we knew that, especially with our high school students, I mean, we have students who are having to watch younger siblings. Some of them are, you know, they just have their own struggles and schedules, their families do, that we knew that we would not be able to mandate that you meet at this certain time. We didn't want to put that stress on them. So we have a spreadsheet. We have a remote learning hub on our school website, and in there we have a spreadsheet where all of the teachers and coaches too, I thought this was really great. Our administration asked our coaches to also have virtual office hours just to keep that student connection going. And so students and parents can go look at the remote learning hub, see when, you know, Miss LeJeune's office hours are, and if they can make it, they, you know, will go and join the link. The teacher sends it out to every student in their class at that particular time. And so if students have questions about the lesson that went out, they're able to get that communication with the teacher. And then we've also used it, I'm the tech help or the first line of defense. So I've actually met with some students on Google Meet they couldn't follow my email instructions. So we met so that I could see, you know, they could show me some things, I could show them, share my screen to fix the computer issue. So that's been really great. And actually one of our teachers told me that, and I thought this was brilliant, that she actually used a Dino to help a student with a tech issue because she could see his screen. And I was like, oh, That's awesome. I'm going to keep that for later.
We saw, it might have been your teacher, but we saw someone on Twitter the other day share, she covered the student's name and everything, but she shared the big view of a student's screen that she'd blown up in Dino and said, you know, that she helped them log into their online textbook using Dino because she could see their screen and walk them through. So it's funny because even though there are tools in place for, you know, screen sharing and video chatting, teachers are finding really creative ways to use Dino to do what they want to do, which I think is a great, not to transition to Dino or anything, but it's a great way to make use of tools that you already have to do things that you might not have realized you could do with them, which I think kind of sings true with the sentiment that we're not trying to implement these new technologies, but learn how we can use tech that we already have to facilitate remote learning and kind of troubleshoot like that. So I thought that was really cool.
It is. And I think that's been like a real highlight to me of this, you know, terrible situation, is that every day I am so impressed with the out of the box thinking and the creativity that I see, you know, people figuring solutions out. And I think, to me, I feel like we're all going to have a lot more confidence because of this.
Definitely. Yeah, that's something yesterday in talking with Sarah Margison, she was, you know, saying that students are having more creativity and more autonomy with choosing what kind of projects they want to be doing or what kind of assessments they want to participate in. So having that creativity from the student side, but also teachers, I feel like have finally have had the door open for them to use technology for instruction, and they're finding all of these creative ways to use it that maybe they didn't have time for before, when they were focused on, you know, having that in-person classroom environment.
Right. Yeah, I think that we, you know, we're humans, and so we kind of get stuck in our little routines. And it's, you know, I had a teacher I was talking to just yesterday, and, you know, we've been talking about Flipgrid for a long time, and she said, "You're going to be so proud of me because I used Flipgrid with my she teaches science with my class." And I was like, that's awesome. You know, and I know it's not because she didn't want to use it before. It was just that, you know, you have your routine down, you're going, and like you said, you may not have the time to really think about it, process it. How am I going to use this? But she was able to do that at this time. So it was great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's like, don't fix something that isn't broken, but now they're given the chance to figure out ways they could enhance their lesson maybe.
Right.
So so we've talked a lot about accountability throughout the week. With, you know, Eric, we talked about digital equity and engaging students. Yesterday with Sarah, we talked a lot about accountability, how teachers can hold students accountable. Are there any tools, technology tools that you use to hold students accountable, whether it is, you know, coming to office hours or getting that work done or making sure that they're, you know, in the place that they need to be at the right time?
Well, like I said, for us, the accountability, I guess, really comes with the completion of the lesson. So for our teachers, we are giving grades, but it's, you know, 1 to 2 grades per week. So we kind of know, and are able to formatively assess if they're getting, you know, the objective of the lesson through that. We have an instructional coach at our school, and she's really awesome. And she actually put together a list of self-grading assignments, because, you know, we've really been talking to our teachers about, we want to protect student time, but we also want them to protect their teacher time, because they have families, they have now kids at home that are also going through remote learning, and it can be a very stressful situation. So I'm happy to share, I got permission from her to share that list of kind of tools that you can, you know, self-grade, or that, you know, grade themselves, and that kind of helps, you know, keep those students accountable. And then we, you know, when our administration rolled out remote learning, one of the first things she said was, students will be successful. So, you know, there are a list of students that we know have fallen behind for whatever reason. And like I said, our counseling team and our admin team are making weekly phone calls and may even, you know, reach out with some social distance home visits just to see what's going on. And then we will also have a makeup week. And we have had situations where this came up on our faculty meeting yesterday. Math teachers were kind of concerned for those students who might be falling behind because they kind of have to give a late grade because they post the solutions to the problems and they don't want kids to just copy. But, you know, our administrator, our principal said, well, we can be creative about that. And during that week of makeup work, you know, for those kids who didn't maybe get that lesson, let's give them something similar and help them get caught up and make sure they have what they need to continue. So I'll go get that. I have a link to that sheet that I was talking about that our instructional coach put together. And
Yeah,
I'll
that would
pop
be
that
great.
in the window.
Yeah, I love the idea for, you know, letting them kind of help grade themselves since they're kind of at that age where they can make those decisions and know how they're doing with certain classes. I'll give you a second to do that.
Oh, I'm good.
Okay. So then I guess, I don't know if this applies to how your teachers are teaching, but what would you say the best products or technology tools are for creating tutorials or demos for teachers and students?
Okay, so my go-to, I love PowerPoint Recorder. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but PowerPoint actually has, it's a new tab, it's a recording tab, and you can make screencast, you can, our computers have, we have styluses, so I can actually write ink while I'm, you know, showing something, and it's super easy to convert that into a video, and then I put it on YouTube and send the unlisted link. I know other people use Screencast-O-Matic. Some people, you know, will use Screencastify. I've used all of those before, but I'm really super comfortable with PowerPoint, and I also find it easy to manipulate images and things like that. And I can have a combo of a screencast and then something that I'm demonstrating and put that together as a video. So it just gives me some more options. So that's been my go-to. Now, I will say that Flipgrid recently released that they have screencasting, and I haven't tried it yet, but I'm super excited about it. We have a help desk in the library, and I have student workers. And so my plan for that is we're going to have, because my student workers make tech tips. They do their own recordings and screencasts and tutorials. And so I thought, how cool will that be to have a grid of, you know, help desk tips and let the student workers do all of their recordings, and that's like in one place. I love one-stop shops, you know, whatever's going to make it easy.
Yeah,
So that's definitely something on my to-do list to try.
that sounds awesome. And I love the idea of having your student workers still helping with that in the process.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting question. So what are the best platforms for teachers to communicate with students without overwhelming families?
Yeah, that's something that we've been struggling with, because what happens for us is our students have 8 classes, 8 teachers, 8 different emails are coming at them on Monday morning. And we do copy the parents on those. And so it's a lot. We've just, but on the flip side, email works the best for us. Everyone's familiar with it, you know, but we've been very mindful of not sending multiple, like, try to get everything you need to say in that initial email, and then, you know, of course you're going to have to send an email with the Google Meet link, but we also have a weekly newsletter. So like if you know did forget something, you can ask administration if they can put that in the newsletter. so that doesn't overwhelm parents. We also try to, like I said, we have a remote learning hub, and we try to put updates in there as well. But I mean, the problem is, there are things like Remind that you can use, but if you start using so many different things, then people forget which place is this going. And so for us, we've just been sticking to email.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think, again, leveraging the communication tools that people are already familiar with so that they don't have to learn something new. Yesterday.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just thought of something. Social has been huge. So we have a communications director, and she has been doing a phenomenal job with, we have Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And so she gets messages out, reminders that way too. And so she can really utilize the social media platforms to say, hey, remember this is in the remote learning hub, or an email was sent, another special email. Our administrative principal has also been doing weekly videos instead of an email to parents. I mean, it gets to them through email, but what I'm saying is it's not so much to read where you're, can skip something, and she keeps them very short, between 3 to 4 minutes. So it's been good.
Yeah, the video, I'm sure, also gives that kind of human connection that people are craving. It's interesting that you said social. That's what I was going to bring up. Sarah yesterday said that the main communication channel they're using is Facebook because, parents might not always check their emails, but they're always checking Facebook. So I think at this time too, like social is kind of coming out of the woodwork because everyone is on it more now that they're at home. And so I think in the future, maybe schools will leverage that a little bit more than they already did to kind of get those announcements out, keep up with parents that way, which I think has been really interesting.
Yeah, and it's really, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just thought,
totally
again, we're a high school, and so, our track season was cut short, and so they've really been spotlighting like senior track runners, track stars, track athletes. And so just keeping that connection with, the kudos to the kids who are getting scholarships or who have signed to a certain college. It's been great for that, like the celebrations as well.
Going off of that, I didn't add this to the list of questions for today, but I'm interested, what are you all doing in terms of graduation? Is that something that's happening virtually?
We're trying to figure that out. I think we've really been waiting to see, our stay-at-home order ends April 30th. And so I think our administration is waiting to see what the next phase is and if it's extended or, holding out hope. But also, of course, we want to be cognizant of social distancing. And so I don't know what's happening yet with that. I think that one thing our principal did that was really wise was she just sent out this week a survey to our seniors to see, just to ask them some questions like, if you could only have 2 events, what would that be? And just to get their input on what's important to them. And if, I think one of the questions was, if we couldn't do a graduation until August or July, would you still want a live one or would you want virtual, just to kind of get that feedback from them. So I think she'll of course have all of that data by the beginning of next week when we will also be hearing from the governor, I'm sure.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and there's definitely still time to make that decision. And I think a lot of schools are kind of in the same position. Another question, this question was asked in relation to Zoom, but I know you use Google Meet. So any classroom management tools or strategies for Google Meet? This might not be applicable since you're not actually conducting classes through there.
No, I mean, it is in that the first the first week, one of our math teachers did virtual office hours. And I think whatever platform you're using, it doesn't matter. You're going to have this kind of situation. You know, she said she has a small child at home, and she has basically one day that her child has a babysitter and she can do work. And she said her students, they just wanted to chit chat for you know, a lot of the time. And she was like, okay, we need to cover some of these things. And so she realized soon that she needed, even though their virtual office hours and not the whole class is not there, she still needed to create some guidelines. And so I've heard different people do different things, like give them, you know they have the first 5 minutes to just chit chat. And then after that, it's going to be, getting to work and focusing on the topic. And I feel like, I've seen posts of people who use Teams or Zoom, and it's the kind of the same thing, keeping students on track. And I've even seen where some people will have, a fun channel in Teams where the kids can go and put their memes and emojis and things like that. But then there's the work channel. And something really cool I saw that someone did with Teams. I'm not sure if you could do, I don't think you could do this with Zoom or Google Meet, but it was another high school teacher. He put his students in groups in a Teams channel, and he would pop in and out of the channels. So they were still able to do this collaborative work. I just thought, again, people are brilliant. I just am amazed at their creativity. But that's been the biggest, classroom management thing we have, because they miss each other and they want to, just kind of chill out and goof around and talk to each other about anything but math.
Yeah, definitely. And especially like when they see each other for the first time, maybe in a few days or so, it's so exciting to be back with your classmates. So it makes a lot of sense to have some structured management process in place for that. We already kind of covered this, but what sites or software do you use for summative assessment to capture what students truly know as opposed to what they're able to look up?
Oh, yeah. That's I think probably been a really tough one. Some of them are, we've really probably been utilizing mostly formative assessments for that reason. I know some teachers have utilized Flipgrid because they can kind of do more application in that, because the students having to tell them, and answer the prompt. So that's been really good for them. I wish our instructional coach were here, because she could probably answer that that question better. But I think she and I have also been talking about how we kind of need to let that go a little bit. I know some people are probably gasping, but to us, if they are looking it up, that's a skill that they need, and is something that we do all the time. There's no possible, and the fact that they looked it up is a step in, they're still engaged,
Right.
I would be happy to hear from anyone else out there through chat, or if anyone has any ideas for, some ways that they've been summatively assessing. That'd be awesome to hear.
Yeah, definitely. If anyone has suggestions, put those in the chat. But that definitely rings true with what we've heard. We talked with Eric Geis at the beginning of the week, and he was talking about how he's really trying to transition students, or his teachers are trying to transition students into doing these passion projects and things that, they're truly engaged in, that aren't necessarily, hard question and answer format, or getting those, kind of nitty gritty details down that they could look up, and then it could be cheating or whatever it may be, but creating projects that fulfill the same learning goals, but through things that they're passionate about or interested in.
Right. Well, and I think you have to, it's all about the way you approach it, and everything is a teachable moment. I just talked to our instructional coach, also teaches Latin, and she found that some of her students, there was a project that she assigned, and their answers were very similar. And so she reached out to them and talked to them about, this would be considered plagiarism. And the student's response to her was, well, we thought you said we could work together. And she said, yes, I did. But when you work together with someone, you need to let me know who you worked with. And it was, I just thought, like, that's something they're going to remember, that because they don't always realize that they're plagiarizing, or that that wouldn't be ethical. And I loved that she was able to teach them that in that moment, and help them understand why there may be points off, or and what they need to do next time to fix it.
Definitely, definitely. And I think your point too on, as long as they're looking it up, they're still learning. So that should be a positive in itself. Maybe not, the cheating aspect, obviously, but they're still going through the process to do research and engage in the material. So that at this time, especially, is a positive, that at least they're, engaging in it enough to learn it still.
Right. Well, and I think it doesn't matter. I mean, really, it's about, I think we as teachers have to look at it. It doesn't, you can use any of these tools that have been mentioned today, you can use for summative assessment, but it's all in the way that you, what are your instructions to the students? What kind of questions are you asking? I mean, if it's, multiple choice, well, yeah, they're going to be able to go look that up. So, maybe some open-ended questions, so short answer questions where they're having to tell you what they're learning, or like you said, the projects where they're showing, and it's not just something they can go get from the internet. So we have to be more creative in the way in which we're asking the questions.
That's a really good point too. That was kind of all of the questions that we received on technology tools. I guess a question to kind of close it out that I'm really interested in your answer is, following this whole remote learning quarantine period, I'm sure a lot of schools will have more concrete remote learning plans in place moving forward in case anything like this happens in the future. What would you say the must-have tools are in your school's technology tool belt for remote learning?
For us personally, I think what we need to do, and this whole experience has, I mean, we had an inkling that this was a problem, but it's really become apparent. And so what we need to do is streamline. We have, like I said, students at our school have 8 different teachers. We have so much technology that you have some teachers using these main tools, some teachers using these, and then it's overwhelming. And you really need a hub. And so for us, what's happened is Moodle, when we first started one-to-one, which was about 7 or 8 years ago, Moodle was our hub, and that was all we had. And so everything was kind of run through Moodle. But in the meantime, Google Classroom has come up. You have, OneNote Class Notebook, Teams, all kinds of things. And so some teachers who are real high flyers have brought some of those other tools into their tool belt. And and maybe Moodle is not really the hub anymore. And so we really need to figure out, okay, what's going to be our hub? And then we need to let some of these other things go. Not that we want teachers to be autonomous and to have the tools that they need, but we really need to be cognizant of that. Too much can be overwhelming. So I think that's just there really aren't, the only tool I can say that has been consistent and constant with, like I said, 75% of our teachers use and 100% of our students use is OneNote. And so that would be the one that would continue for sure.
Makes a lot of sense in streamlining the process when you get back. Thank you so much for being with us today for this conversation. I think it's been great and really helpful to shed some light on what tools are out there that people might already be using or can add to their tool belt. Do you have anything else you'd like to say before we wrap this up?
No, I have a Wakelet that I prepared for my teachers with just most of the tools that are out there have some kind of remote learning help. And so a lot of the links in this Wakelet are to those remote learning kind of guides by, Quizlet, Flipgrid, Nearpod, Pear Deck, all of those. So I'd be happy to share that in the chat. Or you said you might have a way to post some of these.
Yeah, if you go ahead and share it in the chat, we will put the links to everything Melanie has shared in the description of the video when we post it on YouTube so that everyone will have access to these resources and definitely and be able to access those. Perfect. So we'll share those out when we share the recording, which will be later today. Melanie, again, thank you so much for joining us. This has been great. And thank you for participating in the panel discussion last Friday. Anyone who's joining us, if you're interested in learning more about Dyknow and how we support remote learning, join us tomorrow at noon for our Dyknow office hours event. It's going to be a great discussion. It'll be about an hour long with Casey Higgs and Devin Arms and myself. So Melanie, thank you again. Have a great rest of your week and a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.